Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the research vessel Horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling purple nebula that filled the viewport. Something was different about this region of space, she could smell it. Most of her colleagues dismissed her frequent comments about the descent of space, but after 15 years as the ship's chief molecular analyst, she had learned to trust her enhanced olfactory capabilities. "Commander Walsh, I'm picking up something unusual," she spoke into her comm unit, her fingers unconsciously touching the small scar behind her ear, a reminder of the experimental procedure that had enhanced her already keen sense of smell. "It's similar to ethyl formate, but there's something else, something I've never encountered before." The commander's gruff voice crackled through the speaker. "Again with the space smells, Rodriguez? What is it this time, raspberry sundaes?" Maya ignored the gentle mockery in his tone. After all, she had been right about the molecular anomalies in the Carina Nebula last year, saving the ship from a potentially catastrophic encounter with a pocket of corrosive gas. "No, sir. This is different. It's artificial." Before Walsh could respond, the ship's proximity alerts began blaring. Maya rushed to her station in the science lab, her heart pounding as she watched the readings spike across her monitors. The smell was getting stronger, a complex bouquet of organic compounds that shouldn't exist in the vacuum of space. "All hands to stations," Walsh's voice boomed through the ship-wide comm, "we've got something big appearing on our sensors, and it's not natural." Through the reinforced windows of the lab, Maya watched as space itself seemed to ripple and fold. A massive shape emerged from what appeared to be a tear in reality, a ship unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Its surface resembled flowing liquid metal, constantly shifting and changing colors like oil on water. "Dr. Rodriguez," Walsh called, "get up to the bridge. If this is first contact, we need our best nose on deck." Maya grabbed her portable analyzer and rushed to the bridge, passing crew members securing stations and preparing for potential emergency protocols. When she arrived, Walsh was already in communication with Earth Command, his weathered face tense but composed. "The vessel appears to be holding position," Lieutenant Park reported from the tactical station. "No weapon signatures detected, but their technology is so advanced, we might not recognize them if we saw them." Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath, focusing on the complex molecular signatures she could detect. "They're venting something into space," she announced. It's a communication attempt. The molecular structure is organized too precisely to be random." Walsh turned to her, his skepticism finally giving way to genuine interest. "Can you analyze it?" "Already on it," Maya replied, her fingers flying over her console. "The compound is complex but elegant. It's a mathematical sequence, prime numbers, if I'm reading this correctly. They're trying to establish a basis for communication." "How the hell do you get prime numbers from a smell?" Park asked, shaking his head in disbelief. "The same way you get them from radio waves," Maya explained, not taking her eyes off her readings. "It's all patterns. They're using molecular structures instead of electromagnetic signals." "Brilliant, really, molecules are universal, and they've found a way to manipulate them with incredible precision." The alien vessel continued its chemical broadcast, each new sequence building on the last. Maya worked feverishly, translating the molecular language into something her colleagues could understand. Hours passed as the two ships maintained their positions, engaging in this unprecedented form of communication. Finally, Maya looked up from her station, her eyes wide with excitement. "Commander, I think I've got it. They're called the Xylaxians, and they're as curious about us as we are about them. They detected our ship's unique molecular signature. Apparently, humans have a very distinct smell in space." Walsh raised an eyebrow. "You mean to tell me these aliens found us because we stink?" Maya laughed, the tension of the last few hours breaking. "In a manner of speaking, yes. But they find it fascinating. Their species communicates primarily through chemical signals, and they've never encountered a species with our level of olfactory sensitivity. They want to establish diplomatic relations. Well, Walsh said, a smile finally breaking through his professional demeanor, I guess all those years of you sniffing around the galaxy are about to pay off, Doctor. Let's make history. As Maya began composing Earth's first official response to the Xylaxians, she couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. All those years of being the weird one, the human bloodhound who insisted on the importance of smell in space exploration, had led to this moment. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization wasn't through radio waves, light signals, or mathematics, it was through the universal language of molecular chemistry. The bridge crew watched in amazement as Maya worked with the environmental controls to release their carefully crafted response into space. The Xylaxian ship's surface rippled with new colors, acknowledging their message. As the two vessels began their intricate chemical dance of diplomacy, Maya realized that this was just the beginning. The universe, it seemed, had many more scents to share. 3 weeks after first contact, the horizon had been transformed into an unprecedented diplomatic hub. The ship's largest cargo bay now housed a specialized environmental chamber where humans and Xylaxians could meet without protective suits. Maya spent most of her time there, working alongside the alien scientists to develop a more sophisticated method of communication. The base compound needs to be more stable, Maya explained to her Xylaxian counterpart, whom she had nicknamed Azure due to their predominant color pattern. The alien's liquid crystal body shifted in what she had learned to recognize as agreement. She watched in fascination as Azure manipulated molecular structures with an appendage that seemed to phase between solid and gas. The door to the chamber hissed open, and Commander Walsh entered, wearing his formal uniform. Dr. Rodriguez, how's the translation matrix coming along? Earth Command is breathing down my neck for progress reports. Maya gestured to the holographic display showing complex molecular chains. We've made significant breakthroughs. The Xylaxians don't just use chemical signatures for basic communication, it's an entire language of smell. Each molecular structure can convey multiple meanings depending on its configuration and concentration. Azure released a precise combination of compounds that Maya's enhanced olfactory system interpreted as both amusement and pride. The universal translator they were developing would never be as nuanced as her natural ability to detect and interpret these signals, but it would allow for broader communication between their species. Commander, Maya continued, excitement creeping into her voice, what they've shown us about molecular manipulation is revolutionary. They can create and break molecular bonds at will, reshape matter at its most fundamental level. The applications for medicine, manufacturing, even space travel, they're incredible. Walsh nodded, but his expression remained serious. That's exactly what has Earth Command concerned. This level of molecular control, it could also be weaponized. Maya felt Azure's chemical signature shift, they had understood the implication even without the translator. The Xylaxian released a complex compound that made Maya's nose tingle with what she recognized as sadness tinged with resignation. They've been down that road before, Maya translated, her voice soft. Azure is showing me memories of their history, wars fought with molecular weapons, entire worlds rendered uninhabitable. That's why they developed their current technology to be purely constructive. They can only create and reshape, never destroy. The commander's expression softened slightly. That's reassuring. But there's something else you need to know. He glanced at Azure before continuing. We've detected unusual energy signatures from 3 other vessels approaching our position. They're not Xylaxian. Maya turned to Azure, who was already releasing a stream of information-rich molecules. Her eyes widened as she interpreted the message. The Crevaire, she said, her voice tense. They're a species the Xylaxians have encountered before, one that never gave up the pursuit of molecular weapons. Hostile? Walsh asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Extremely. The Xylaxians have been searching for allies against them, which is partly why they were so excited to find us. Human olfactory capabilities, combined with our different approach to technology, could provide an advantage they've never had before. Walsh began pacing, a habit Maya had learned meant he was processing difficult information. So our first venture into interstellar diplomacy might lead us straight into an interstellar war. Perfect. Azure released another complex molecular message, which made Maya smile despite the tension. They say they don't expect us to fight their battles. They're sharing their technology with us freely, whether we choose to help them or not. It's a gesture of trust. The commander stopped pacing and turned to face the Xylaxian. That's noble of them, but if these Crevaire are as dangerous as they say, Earth can't afford to stay neutral. We'd be next on their list eventually. Maya worked with Azure over the next several hours, documenting everything they knew about the Crevaire. The alien species had evolved on a high-gravity world with a caustic atmosphere, making them naturally resistant to many forms of molecular warfare. They saw other species' vulnerability as weakness, one they exploited without mercy. The Crevaire ships will arrive in approximately 72 hours, Maya reported during the emergency staff meeting later that day. They're likely already analyzing our molecular signatures, trying to determine our weaknesses. Lieutenant Park spoke up from his position at the tactical station. Can we use the Xylaxians' defensive technology to protect ourselves? Better than that, Maya replied, pulling up a detailed schematic. Azure and I have been working on something new, a hybrid system that combines their molecular manipulation with our traditional shielding technology. The Crevaire won't expect it because it's never existed before. The bridge crew leaned forward as Maya explained the technical details. By embedding Xylaxian molecular manipulators within the Horizon's shield grid, they could create a defense system that could adapt to any molecular attack, transforming harmful substances into harmless ones. It's not just defensive either, Maya continued. We can use my enhanced olfactory capabilities to detect and analyze their weapons in real time, allowing us to develop countermeasures almost instantly. The Xylaxians' chemical senses are actually less refined than mine in some ways. They never needed to evolve the ability to detect trace amounts because they could always manipulate molecules directly. Commander Walsh absorbed the information, his tactical mind already working through the implications. How quickly can we get this system operational? With the Xylaxians' help, we can have basic functionality within 48 hours. It won't be perfect, but it should be enough to protect us from their initial assault. Make it happen, Walsh ordered. And Dr. Rodriguez, good work. I never thought I'd say this, but humanity's survival might just depend on our sense of smell. As Maya left the meeting with Azure, she felt a mix of pride and apprehension. The next few days would determine not just the future of human-Xylaxian relations, but potentially the safety of both their species. She had always known her enhanced sense of smell would be important to space exploration, but she never imagined it would make her the linchpin in humanity's first interstellar alliance. Azure released a gentle cloud of molecules that conveyed confidence and friendship. Maya smiled, responding with a carefully crafted chemical message of her own, her first attempt at true Xylaxian communication. The alien surface rippled with patterns she recognized as joy. Together, they headed back to the lab. They had a lot of work to do, and not much time to do it. The klaxons blared throughout the horizon as Maya raced through the corridors, her portable analyzer clutched tightly in her hand. The Crevaire ships had arrived earlier than expected, their massive forms appearing out of fold space like dark stars being born. Talk to me, Rodriguez, Commander Walsh's voice crackled through her comm unit. What are we dealing with? Maya reached the bridge, slightly out of breath. They're already deploying molecular weapons, sir. But it's strange. She plugged her analyzer into the main console, bringing up a detailed scan. They're not attacking, they're testing us. Probing our defenses with different compound combinations. The main viewport showed 3 Crevaire vessels, their hulls covered in what looked like crystalline growths. Unlike the flowing, organic designs of Xylaxian ships, these were angular and aggressive, bristling with weapon ports that leaked ominous clouds of shifting chemicals into space. Azure materialized beside Maya's station, their liquid crystal form pulsing with urgent patterns. The molecular message they released made Maya's enhanced olfactory receptors burn. "They're saying this is unusual behavior for the Crevaire," she translated. "They typically attack immediately, overwhelm their opponents with brute force. This calculated approach is new. They've evolved," Lieutenant Park said grimly from Tactical. "They must have learned from their previous encounters with the Xylaxians." Maya's fingers flew over her console as she analyzed the latest molecular probe from the Crevaire ships. The hybrid defense system she and Azure had developed was holding, converting the hostile compounds into harmless elements, but something about the attack pattern nagged at her enhanced senses. "Commander," she said slowly, "I don't think we're their real target." She turned to Azure, who was already releasing a stream of confirming molecules. "The Crevaire know about my enhanced olfactory capabilities. They must have picked up the modifications in my biological signature. They're not just testing our defenses, they're studying how I interpret and respond to their chemical weapons." Walsh's expression darkened. "They want to learn how to bypass human smell detection." "Why?" "The Xylaxians are the ones with the advanced molecular technology." "Because we're the wild card," Maya realized, her eyes widening. Human olfactory capabilities combined with Xylaxian technology, it's created something entirely new. Something they've never encountered before. She paused, processing a new molecular message from Azure. "The Xylaxians have always been predictable in their responses, limited by their purely constructive technology. But humans. We fight back," Walsh finished. "And now they want to understand how we do it." The ship shuddered as another wave of molecular probes hit their shields. Maya watched the readings carefully, her enhanced senses picking up subtle variations in the chemical compositions. Then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. "Sir, the probes aren't just testing us, they're delivering something else. Something incredibly subtle." She enhanced the scan, isolating a particular molecular structure. "There are synthetic compounds piggybacking on their main attacks, designed to slip through our defenses. They're microscopic molecular machines." Azure's form rippled with alarm as they confirmed Maya's discovery. The Crevaire weren't just attacking, they were trying to infect the horizon with molecular technology that could rebuild itself once inside their shields. "Can we stop it?" Walsh demanded. Maya worked furiously at her console, her enhanced senses straining to analyze the complex molecular structures. "The compounds are designed to remain inert until they reach a critical concentration. They've been accumulating in our shield matrix." She looked up at Walsh, her expression grave. "If we don't neutralize them soon, they'll have enough mass to begin self-replication. Once that happens, they'll eat through our shields from the inside out," Park finished, his face pale. Azure moved to Maya's side, their surface swirling with determined patterns. Together, they began modifying the hybrid defense system, racing against time to find a way to destroy the molecular machines without compromising their shields. "There's something else," Maya said, her nose picking up a new scent through the ship's environmental sensors. "The molecular machines, they're not just weapons. They're carrying information. The Crevaire are trying to hack our systems using chemical code." Walsh slammed his fist on his armrest. "They're not just trying to destroy us, they're trying to steal our technology. Can you stop them?" Maya felt a moment of pride as she realized she could smell the patterns in the chemical code, something even the Xylaxians couldn't do. Her enhanced olfactory system was detecting subtle variations that revealed the structure of the Crevaire's programming. "Azure," she called out, "I need you to modify the molecular manipulators. Instead of just neutralizing these compounds, we're going to reprogram them." Her fingers danced across the console as she translated what her nose was telling her into technical specifications. "We can use their own weapons against them." The bridge crew watched in tense silence as Maya and Azure worked. The Crevaire ships continued their probing attacks, unaware that their carefully crafted molecular machines were being transformed by the unlikely partnership of human and Xylaxian science. "Got it," Maya announced finally. "Commander, we can send these modified molecular machines back through their own attack vectors. They'll carry a payload of our own, one that will force their ships to reveal every detail of their weapons systems." Walsh smiled grimly. "Do it." Maya initiated the countermeasure, watching with satisfaction as the reprogrammed molecular machines flowed back through the enemy's chemical delivery system. The Crevaire ships suddenly stopped their attack, their crystalline weapons ports closing as they detected the intrusion. "They're trying to purge their systems," Park reported, "but it's too late. We're getting everything: weapon specifications, shield frequencies, engine configurations. And something else," Maya added, her enhanced senses picking up new information from the molecular feedback. "Sir, I'm detecting signs of biological experimentation aboard their ships. They're not just developing weapons, they're trying to modify themselves, to replicate human olfactory capabilities through genetic engineering." Azure released a complex molecule that made Maya's eyes water, a signal of extreme concern. The Xylaxians had long suspected the Crevaire of biological warfare, but this was the first concrete evidence. "Send everything to Earth Command," Walsh ordered. "They need to know what we're really dealing with here." He turned to Maya. "Good work, Doctor. But something tells me this isn't over." Maya nodded, still monitoring the molecular signals from the Crevaire ships. They were retreating now, their crystalline hulls dark and defensive, but she could smell their rage, a harsh, metallic odor that cut through space like a blade. "No," she agreed, "it's not over. They'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for us." She exchanged looks with Azure, whose liquid crystal form pulsed with determination. "But we'll be ready for them too." 2 days after repelling the Crevaire attack, Maya found herself in a heated discussion with Earth Command via holographic conference. The stark blue light of the projection filled the Horizon's main briefing room as Admiral Chen's stern face looked down at the assembled crew. "You're telling me these aliens can literally reshape matter at the molecular level, and you want to give them access to our genetic research?" The Admiral's voice carried equal parts disbelief and concern. "Dr. Rodriguez, your success with the hybrid defense system is commendable, but this goes too far." Maya stood her ground, conscious of Azure's supportive presence beside her. "Admiral, the Crevaire are already trying to replicate human olfactory capabilities through genetic engineering. If we don't work with the Xylaxians to understand how my enhanced senses work, we'll be fighting a losing battle." Commander Walsh stepped forward. "Sir, I've seen firsthand what Dr. Rodriguez and our Xylaxian allies can accomplish together. Their molecular manipulation technology, combined with our biological innovations, could revolutionize our defensive capabilities." The Admiral's hologram flickered as he considered this. "And what do the Xylaxians get out of this arrangement?" Azure released a complex series of molecules that Maya quickly translated. "They say our approach to genetic enhancement is unlike anything they've encountered. Where they learn to manipulate external molecular structures, we've mastered internal ones. Together, we could develop defenses that neither species could create alone." Before the Admiral could respond, Lieutenant Park burst into the briefing room. "Commander, we're detecting multiple fold space signatures. The Crevaire are back, and they're not alone." The holographic conference dissolved as the ship's alert system activated. Maya rushed to her station on the bridge, her enhanced senses already picking up new molecular signatures through the ship's external sensors. 5 Crevaire vessels, Park reported, and they're employing some kind of molecular camouflage. If it wasn't for Dr. Rodriguez's nose, we might not have detected them until they were right on top of us. Maya analyzed the incoming data, her eyes widening. They've modified their ship's molecular signatures based on what they learned from our last encounter. They're trying to mask their presence from both human and Xylaxian detection methods. Azure moved to the molecular manipulation controls they had helped install on the bridge. Their liquid crystal form pulsed with urgency as they released a warning signal that made Maya's nose burn. "They're not just hiding their ships," she translated, "they're obscuring something bigger. The molecular camouflage is creating a blind spot in our sensors, and it's massive." Commander Walsh gripped his chair. "How massive?" The answer came in the form of a massive shape emerging from full space, a station or installation of some kind, its crystalline surface covered in weapon ports and molecular synthesizers. The structure dwarfed the Crevaire ships escorting it, its very presence distorting the space around it. "That's a biological research facility," Maya said, her enhanced senses picking up the telltale signatures of genetic experimentation. "They've brought their whole operation here. They're not just trying to steal our technology anymore, they're planning to test their results." Azure's form rippled with patterns Maya had never seen before, releasing molecules that spoke of ancient conflicts and lost worlds. The Xylaxian explained how the Crevaire had used similar facilities to develop the weapons that had devastated their outer colonies. "Commander," Maya said, her voice tight with urgency, "that facility is producing something. The molecular signatures, they're similar to the genetic markers in my enhanced olfactory system, but they're wrong somehow. Unstable." The Crevaire ships moved into attack formation around their facility, but they didn't open fire. Instead, they began releasing clouds of complex molecular structures into space, not weapons, but test subjects. "They're not attacking us," Maya realized with horror. "They're using us to test their genetic modifications. Each of those clouds contains altered genetic material based on human DNA. Azure quickly manipulated their defensive systems, trying to neutralize the experimental compounds before they could reach the ship. But the Crevaire had learned from their previous encounter, the molecular structures were constantly shifting, adapting, making them almost impossible to counter. "Some of it is getting through," Park warned. "Environmental systems are detecting trace amounts in our atmosphere." Maya closed her eyes, focusing her enhanced senses on the foreign molecules. "They're trying to force evolution, using my genetic modifications as a template. But they don't understand the complexity of human olfactory systems. These compounds, they're not just unstable, they're dangerous." She turned to Azure, who was already working on a solution. Together, they had spent hours studying the interaction between human genetic enhancement and Xylaxian molecular manipulation. Now, that research might be their only hope. "Commander," Maya said, her fingers flying over her console, "I have an idea, but it's risky. We need to let some of these compounds through our shields, enough for me to fully analyze them with my enhanced senses. If we can understand how they're trying to replicate human olfactory capabilities, we might be able to turn their own research against them." Walsh studied her for a long moment. "The last time we let Crevaire molecular machines through our shields, they nearly destroyed us. This is different," Maya insisted. "They're not trying to destroy us, they're trying to become us. And that's their weakness." She gestured to Azure, whose form was already shifting to accommodate her plan. "The Xylaxians can help me contain the compounds while I study them. But we need to act fast, before they perfect their genetic modifications." The commander looked from Maya to Azure, then to the massive research facility looming before them. Finally, he nodded. "Do it. But be careful, we're not just risking the ship now. We're risking the future of both our species." Maya turned back to her station, her enhanced senses already detecting the subtle changes in the ship's atmosphere as they prepared to implement her desperate plan. The alliance between humans and Xylaxians was about to be tested in ways neither species had imagined, and the outcome would determine more than just the fate of their two races. The Horizon's laboratory had been transformed into a containment chamber, its walls lined with Xylaxian molecular manipulators. Maya stood at its center, her enhanced senses focused on the carefully controlled stream of Crevaire compounds flowing through a specialized testing chamber. "The genetic modifications are becoming more sophisticated," she reported, her voice tense as she analyzed another wave of test samples. "They're getting closer to replicating human olfactory capabilities, but there's still something they don't understand. Azure's liquid crystal form swirled with concern as they monitored the molecular containment field. Through the lab's reinforced windows, they could see the massive Crevar research facility continuing its ominous experiments, each new batch of compounds more refined than the last. Dr. Rodriguez, Commander Walsh's voice came through the comm, "We're detecting power fluctuations in their facility. Whatever they're planning, they're about to escalate." Maya nodded, though her attention remained fixed on the molecular signatures she was studying. "They're frustrated. They can replicate the basic structure of human olfactory receptors, but they can't achieve the same level of sensitivity. And that's because," she stopped suddenly, her eyes widening. "That's it." She turned to Azure, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. "They're trying to replicate the hardware, the physical structures that allow humans to detect and interpret molecular signatures. But they're completely ignoring the software." "Explain," Walsh demanded over the comm. "Human olfactory capabilities aren't just about the physical receptors," Maya said, her fingers flying over her console as she compiled her analysis. "It's about how our brains process that information. The neural pathways, the connections to memory and emotion, the way we can distinguish between thousands of different scents and remember them all. The Crevar can copy the biological structures, but they can't replicate the complexity of human consciousness." Azure released a stream of molecules that made Maya's enhanced senses tingle with understanding. The Xylaxian had realized something too. "And that's where Xylaxian technology comes in," Maya continued. "They don't just manipulate molecules, they communicate through them. They understand better than anyone how molecular structures can carry meaning, emotion, memory." Through the windows, they could see the Crevar facility's crystalline surface beginning to pulse with energy. "They're preparing for a mass release," Park reported from Tactical. "Multiple launch ports opening." Maya turned to Azure, her expression determined. "We need to combine everything we've learned. Not just human genetics and Xylaxian molecular manipulation, but the way both our species perceive and interact with the molecular world. We need to show the Crevar what they're missing." Azure's form rippled in agreement, and together they began modifying the ship's defensive systems. Maya's enhanced senses guided the changes, while Azure's mastery of molecular manipulation made them possible. They weren't just creating a shield anymore, they were creating a new way of interfacing with the molecular world. "All hands, brace for impact," Walsh ordered as the Crevar facility unleashed its final experiment. Clouds of genetically modified compounds erupted from its launch ports, spreading out in a wave that threatened to engulf the horizon. But Maya and Azure were ready. As the wave approached, their hybrid system didn't just deflect or neutralize the compounds, it responded to them, engaging with them on both a physical and informational level. "It's working," Maya breathed, watching the readings on her console. "The system is using my olfactory patterns to interpret their compounds, then using Xylaxian molecular manipulation to respond in kind. We're not just defending against their attack, we're showing them what they got wrong." The Crevar compounds began to change as they encountered the horizon's new defensive field. The genetic modifications they carried were being rewritten, not by force, but through a form of molecular dialogue that neither humans nor Xylaxians could have achieved alone. "Their launch ports are closing," Park reported. They're pulling their compounds back." Maya watched through her monitors as the Crevar facility's energy signatures began to fluctuate wildly. "They're receiving our molecular message. Their genetic modifications are being overwhelmed by the complexity of true human-Xylaxian molecular interaction." The facility's crystalline surface began to crack as its own experiments turned against it. The Crevar escort ships broke formation, retreating to a safe distance as their massive research installation started to break apart. "Should we finish them?" Walsh asked, but Maya shook her head. "No need," she said, her enhanced senses detecting the change in the Crevar ship's molecular signatures. "They understand now. They tried to replicate human abilities through brute force and genetic manipulation, but we've shown them something far more powerful, the combination of human perception and Xylaxian communication. It's not something they can steal or copy. It's something that only works through cooperation. As if to confirm her words, the Crevaire ships began releasing molecular signals of their own, not weapons or experiments this time, but something Maya's enhanced senses recognized as surrender. Azure moved to Maya's side, their liquid crystal form glowing with patterns of victory and hope. Together, they had done more than just defeat an enemy, they had demonstrated the true potential of their alliance. Earth Command will want a full report, Walsh said, though Maya could hear the smile in his voice. And something tells me this is just the beginning of human Xylaxian cooperation. Maya looked out at the stars beyond the dissolving remains of the Crevaire facility. Her enhanced senses could detect traces of ethyl formate in the distance, that familiar scent of raspberries in space that had once made her colleagues laugh. But now she understood it wasn't just a quirk of human perception or a cosmic coincidence. It was a reminder that the universe spoke in many languages, and sometimes the most important ones couldn't be heard at all. "Commander," she said, "tell Earth Command they might want to expand their xenobiology research budget. I have a feeling we're going to be learning a lot more about the molecular language of the universe." Azure released a final stream of molecules, a complex message that made Maya smile. The Xylaxian was right. The defeat of the Crevaire wasn't an ending, it was a first step into a larger universe, one where the boundaries between species dissolved like morning mist, leaving behind the pure chemistry of cooperation and understanding.